Hi, welcome back to the Dewan Moore Show, where we obviously must live in bizarro land because Sam Clovis, Donald Trump's pick to be chief scientist for the Department of Agriculture, doesn't know shit about science. Has argued that homosexuality is a choice and that the sanction of same-sex marriage could lead to the legalization of pedophilia. Because fucking reasons. Fudging reasons. A CNN K-File review of Clovis's writing, radio broadcast, and speeches have found Clovis made the comments between 2012 and 2014 in his capacity as a talk radio host, political activist, and briefly as a candidate for U.S. Senate in Iowa. His nomination has drawn criticism from Senate Democrats, as it should, and surprisingly so, who argue his lack of scientific background make him unqualified as USDA post overseeing science. I concur. Clovis has repeatedly argued that science on homosexuality is unsettled and that LGBT behavior is a choice. Man, is this dude whack. The American Psychologists Association has said that while there is no scientific consensus on the cause of sexual orientation, most people experience little or no sense of choice about their sexual orientation. Asked for comments on Clovis' beliefs surrounding the science of homosexuality, a USDA spokeswoman told CNN the Supreme Court settled that issue in 2015. The White House did not respond to a request for comment. K-File has previously reported on controversial comments Clovis has made during his time as a talk radio host about race and then President Barack Obama. At the time, a USDA spokesperson said that Secretary of Agriculture Sonny Perdue still supports Clovis to be under Security for Research, Education, and Economics. Clovis, whose background and views are strongly rooted in the politics of conservative talk radio, made most of his remarks in the context of discussing his belief LGBT people should not be given protection under the 14th Amendment to the Constitution. He says he believes that if LGBT people got such protections, pastors wouldn't be allowed to preach against the aberrations that alternative lifestyles were to church doctrine. Love that word. Writing in an op-ed for the local conservative blog, Iowa Republicans in April 2011, Clovis argued science of being LGBT were unsettled, and if being gay was genetic, then other people genetically disposed, like left-handed people, should receive constitutional protections as well. This guy is a freaking idiot. Today, there are 6 protected classes of American citizens who benefit from the history of legal precedents associated with the American tradition and the 14th Amendment. 2 of those classes, religion and military, and religion definitely shouldn't be one. They definitely should be paying some taxes. We'd be a lot better off in this nation. But anyways, has long been established in the tradition of the nation. The other four, race, gender, disability, and age, are based on primary characteristics, which are fine. But religion, I'm just going to go on with the story. Primary characteristics are those human features we can generally discern by visual examination, something we can see. Following this logic, the only way to extend 14th Amendment protections to those in LGBT lifestyle is if these behaviors are genetically mapped or otherwise discernible. The science on this issue seems to be uncertain, and if one of the follow the argument from plaintiffs, the issue argued was that these individuals, because of love, should be allowed to marry just like opposite sex couples. What is it really? Is this about genetics or about emotions? The stronger case is genetics, but this is not the argument being advanced. If LGBT adherents were genetically predisposed, then one must ask why a segment of the population that constitutes numbers less than 1/3 of those who might be left-handed, or fourth the number who might be blue-eyed or 1/8 the number of who might be genetically predisposed to obesity should receive 14th Amendment protections when others are not even considered. Certainly, left-handers have more to bark about than most. Thus, the argument must be about something other than genetic predisposition, unquote. This is said by the guy that was nominated. And if you ask me, boy, is that a fat bowl of word salad. At a campaign stop during his failed campaign for the Republican Senate nomination in Iowa, Clovis said the science was still out, but as far as we know, unquote, on Clovis, being LGBT is a choice. Man, is this dude nuts. Clovis then concludes the protection of LGBT people could mean that pedophiles would also be protected, because yeah, that would be a thing. Quote, someone who engages in LGBT behavior, I don't know what the science is on this, I think it's still out. But as far as we know, LGBT behavior is a choice they make, Clovis says in a video obtained by CNN K-Files. So we're being asked to provide constitutional protection for behavior, a choice in behavior, as opposed to a primary characteristic, because I'm a fudge tard. Quote, there's no equivalent between the civil rights issue associated between those protected classes and the civil rights of someone who engages in particular behavior, continues Clovis, unquote. Quote, follow the logic. If you engage in a particular behavior, what also becomes protected? If we protect LGBT behavior, what other behavior are we going to protect? Are we going to protect pedophiles? Are we going to protect polyamorous marriage relationships? Which shouldn't be a problem. The pedophile thing, yeah, leave little kids alone, but if you're consenting adults, then you should be consenting adults. Anywho's, are we going to protect people who have fetishes? What's the logical extension of this? It can't be that we're going to protect LGBT and then we pull up the ladder. That's not going to happen. It defies logic. This guy, I'm scared of his logic. We're not thinking the consequences of these decisions through. No, you're thinking them through really fudged up, you sick fudger. When a question said, some might call what Clovis worded extreme, compared the approval of same-sex protections to allow pedophiles. Clovis said it was logical. And are you a red dot, sir? I'm concerned. I don't think it's extreme, said Clovis. I think it's a logical extension of thought. And if you cannot follow the logic, then you are denying. You're in denial. You, sir, I think, are projecting. Creepy. Clovis also expressed his belief that the LGBT community itself wanted more than same-sex marriage protection. Writing on his blog in May 2012, the day after then President Obama announced his support same-sex marriage, Clovis said the LGBT community might not stop at same-sex marriage, but posted that they could move on to polyamorous arrangements. In America, there has been strong support in our legal system to define marriage between one man and one woman, Clovis wrote. In particular, the Supreme Court, as far back as 1870, established that the very definition of marriage, what seemed the most troubling of extending the definition of marriage to same-sex couples, is that it will be difficult to stop with this revised definition. Quote, is the LGBT community wanting to stop the marriage arrangement of any two consenting adults? This is illogical. If society chooses to alter the definition of marriage, how can there be a line drawn at two adults? What is to say that polyamorous arrangements should not be included? What about other relationships? If that is the goal of the LGBT community leadership, then the reasons for rearranging the traditional definitions is far more nefarious than just making a small segment of the population feel better. In the same blog post, Clovis said religious freedom meant business should be able not to hire LGBT people if it conflicts with their religious beliefs, because, that's fair. Homosexuality and personal choice and one's sexual preference is not an issue. Businesses today have extended support to life partners in a number of ways. Yay! They're so gracious, aren't they? It's just good business if what it takes to get the best person for the job, added Clovis. On the other hand, businesses and their owners should be able to make the decision about who employ if hiring people who do not behave in accordance with some deeply held religious belief systems at its issue. In other words, we make it legal to discriminate. Isn't that awesome? Just as the government should not force business owners or enterprises to provide contraceptives or morning after pills because of religious beliefs, a bunch of squanchers, the government should not be in charge of hiring practice either. Religious freedom, perhaps the most fundamental of all protected freedoms, must be free of government interference. And I, for one, am a strong fan of George Carlin, who thinks that religion is a bunch of BS and a way to separate us and control us and keep your minds on the low. They want you to be a bunch of sheeple, but let me know what you want to, or let me know what you think about this whole situation, who Trump put in charge of science and agriculture, who doesn't even have any kind of science background, in the comment section below. If you like what I do and you like hearing my voice, make sure you like and subscribe and ring that bell, and you'll know exactly when I upload my next videos. As always, you could have spent your time in the world anywhere, but you chose to spend that time here with me, and for that I'm truly thankful, and I will see you next time on the Go On More Show.